Welcome to the Truth and Liberty Show, where trusted leaders bring biblical insights to important issues to help you stand for truth and effect godly change in our nation and in our world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Truth and Liberty Show. Today's episode is going to be hosted by our good friend Bishop E.W. Jackson. Bishop Jackson is an American hero, a United States Marine Corps veteran, Harvard-educated minister of the gospel whose love for this country, his wisdom, and his passion resonate deeply. He's going to be leading today's program from our remote location in Chesapeake, Virginia. So here we go. Here's today's show with Bishop E.W. Jackson.
Welcome to another edition of Truth and Liberty. I'm your guest host today, Bishop E.W. Jackson, standing in for Richard Harris. It's an honor to do so, by the way. Great to be with you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for all your support of Truth and Liberty and Andrew Womack Ministries, your prayers, your financial support, all that you do to make this ministry possible. We are deeply and profoundly grateful to you for that. We know this is a God enterprise. It is a God thing, and it would not work without the people of God supporting it. So thank you for all you do. And to express our gratitude to you, we have a special free gift for you today. It is a book or booklet called The Calling to Manhood by Richard Harris. The Calling to Manhood. In a previous program, I talked a lot about family and fatherhood. This is the perfect companion to that. The perfect follow-up to that, The Calling to Manhood by Richard Harris. And that's available, by the way, by going to truthandlibertygtn.com. That's truthandlibertygtn.com. I also want to thank Andrew Womack Ministries for supporting our biggest event of the year. We have an event called the Stand Awards Dinner, which we are going to hold on May the 16th. That's Friday, May the 16th. At Cornerstone Chapel in Leesburg, Virginia. I want to invite all of you to come. You can find out more about it by going to standamerica.us. That's standamerica.us. And all the options of how you can support are there. Of course, pray for us first and foremost, and I really mean that. Please do that. Prayer can never be replaced. Resources can be replaced. Prayer cannot. Prayer is essential, always. But you can donate there. You can buy tickets to the event. You can buy a table. You can sponsor. However you choose to support us, we'll be grateful. And again, thank you, Andrew Womack Ministries. And thank you, Andrew, for being a sponsor of this dinner. Really appreciate that. We're honoring 5 great patriots, including my next guest, one of the co-founders of Moms for Liberty, Tina Descovich, and she'll be with us in a moment. So before we get there, however, I want to talk to you a little bit about an issue I want to bring up with her, and I think what really spurred the existence, the founding, and the ultimate exponential growth of Moms for Liberty. We're living in a world, and sadly in our own country, in which the very reality of male and female as the only two genders is being assailed, not just questioned, but attacked as wrong. Some of these very prominent news commentators, oh, gender is fluid. No, it's not fluid. Jesus made quite clear, and you'll find this in several scriptures, but in Matthew 19:4, Jesus said, "Have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female?" Now there it is. He who made them at the beginning made them male and female. Jesus didn't say male, female, and then 122 flavors. There's only two genders, male and female. And every cell of the human body is engraved with the reality of one's gender. In other words, not just you, if you're male, are male, and you, if you're female, are female, but every cell of your body affirms that gender. And you can't change it. They can hormone you up and dress you up and make up you up. They can do anything they want to do. But you can't change the fundamental reality of who you are. Now, here's the problem. We're in a situation now where you've got school departments all over this country are saying to children, no, you might be born in the wrong body. Now, as if that weren't bad enough, monstrous enough. And by the way, folks, I don't even know what that means. Do you? You were born in the, well, who's you? You were born in the wrong body. I guess you are really a female, but whoever that you is, you were placed in the wrong biological machine. Now, that doesn't even make a bit of sense. In other words, God doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, God's just messing up all over the place and putting guys in girls' bodies and girls in guys' bodies. I mean, you realize how blasphemous that is, how rebellious that is. I'll share this with you and you preachers watching me out there. You can use this. The devil was the first trans because the devil was the first being to say, I am not satisfied with what God made me to be, an angel. I believe I was made to be something else, and that is God. He's the first being to rebel against what God made him to be. And now you got human beings doing the same thing, but this rebelling. God made me a male. No. I don't accept that. I don't accept that. I'm something other than what he made me to be. No, you're not. But look, you have schools telling children this as if that weren't bad enough. But then get this one, folks. Actually, in some cases, Illinois was just considering a law. I don't know whether this rather wicked governor of Illinois signed this bill or not, but the legislature passed it overwhelmingly because they're controlled by the Democrats. The Democrats are into this. Passed overwhelmingly saying, if you are a parent and your child talks to a teacher and tells the teacher, or the teacher talks to the child and tells the child, which is more likely, that you're born in the wrong body and you're really a male and you're really a female, whatever. First of all, there's no obligation. In fact, you are prohibited from telling the parents, number one, because the parents won't understand, of course. Number two, if the parents do find out and they are not willing to call the child by their preferred name or pronoun, they are misgendering and dead naming the child and subject to have the custody of the child removed from the parents for abuse. I kid you not, folks. This is the way these people are thinking. This is complete statism, where the state knows better what's right for your child than you do. Now, they haven't raised your child, they haven't cared for your child, they haven't fed your child, they haven't clothed your child, but they're going to be the ones to tell your child what his or her sexual identity is. And if you object to that, they're going to take the child from you. Now, I can't think of a greater constitutional abuse than that. But that's where we are. And I believe Moms for Liberty was founded to address this horrible injustice. You want to talk about social injustice? Folks, this is injustice on steroids. We're going to take somebody's child from them because they choose to follow a different path or method of dealing with that child's very obvious emotional and psychological problems, because that's what that is. That's not something that needs to be affirmed. That's something that needs to be addressed. That child needs prayer. That child needs counseling. That child needs love to show them. And by the way, do you know that apparently 85% of children who suggest this gender confusion grow out of it? But they want you to let your child have hormones and be operated on, only to have that child say later, as we have many, quote, detransitioners saying now, it was abuse for me to let this happen because it was wrong. I was wrong. But now it can't be undone because I was operated on and my body was mutilated. And now they want to sue the doctors, and I understand it. And they're angry with the system and angry with their parents in some cases for allowing them to make this life-changing alteration in their body, only to grow up and realize, oh, I made a mistake. But now I'm a woman who will never be able to breastfeed her children. Now I'm a man who will never be able to have children. Or now I'm a woman who will never be able to get pregnant. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But the school system tells you, no, we'll take your child away from you unless you let this happen, unless you affirm it, unless you agree with it, unless you celebrate it. We're going to take your child away from you because you're an unfit parent. Well, let me say this, and this is the thing that most people will not say, but it needs to be said. Folks, this really happened not just in the last 5, 6, 7 years. This really happened the moment the first so-called gay rights bill was passed. The moment we enshrine in our legal system that you are entitled to special treatment because of your sexual proclivities, and that's all it is. Because you desire to be intimate with a person of the same gender, we are going to treat that as the equivalent of race or the equivalent of nationality. And we're going to protect against anyone saying anything or doing anything to suggest that they're not in agreement with it. And we're going to treat that as discrimination. And if I don't mind, folks, if you don't mind, not to put too fine a point on this, as a Black man, as an American of African ancestry, whose outward physiological characteristics are indelible and that I had nothing to do with them, okay? God didn't show me a bunch of pastel colors and say, which one do you choose? This is who I am. This is the way I was born. It says nothing about my character. It says nothing about my ability. It says nothing about my intellect. It says nothing about anything except this is the way I look because I'm an American of African ancestry. To make that the equivalent of homosexuality, which is based on behavior, I find profoundly insulting. Because if you all will forgive me, when I walk into a room, people don't have to ask the question, is he Black? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. We might have to ask him. I don't know. Do you know? No, I don't know. Nobody has that discussion. Why? Because it's obvious. But nobody knows when a person walks into a room unless they announce themselves, whether he or she is a homosexual or they're doing something outwardly to make that clear to everyone. You apply for a job, they don't know what your sexual behavior is unless you tell them. I apply for a job, I don't have to tell anybody anything. They know the moment I walk in. But yet to make these two things the equivalent, as if they're the same, is really an insult to civil rights. But look, the moment we allowed that to happen, we opened the door to what we have now. Because the moment you say, well, God's standard is not what we are following. God's standard is not what we're adhering to. God's standard is not what we're recognizing. We're going to make our own standards. Well, guess what? There are going to be some more standards coming down the pike that somebody else made up, and that's what we've got right now. Oh, gender's not fixed. What? Of course it is. No. No, a man can be a woman can be a man. They can move back and forth between the two. And what? Says who? Says us. But what does God say? God said in the beginning, he made them male and female. That's it. That's all. But the moment you say, well, wait. Homosexuality is not sin. It's just a sexual orientation. Well, guess what? Now being male or female is not fixed. It's just kind of a social, in fact, that's what they say. It's a social construct. In other words, just something that society made up to control people, which is just about as wrong-headed as anything you can imagine because it is so obviously wrong. So when we come back, we're going to talk to Tina Descovich, Moms for Liberty, and talk a little bit about what they are doing to try to address this attempt to subvert the family, subvert truth, and subvert reality, because that's what they're doing. I'm Bishop E.W. Jackson. I'm your stand-in host for Richard Harris here on Truth and Liberty. Folks, stand by. Got a great guest coming up, and we will be back in just a moment.
Are you passionate about standing for truth in the culture, but don't know how to get started? Well, Truth and Liberty, our mission is to educate, unify, and mobilize the body of Christ to stand for truth in the public square. And as part of our mission, we provide you with an amazing array of resources on our website. And our website has just been revamped, remodeled, and retooled to be user-friendly. And I'm so excited about it because I believe that there's nothing like it out there anywhere. I want to encourage you today to go to truthandliberty.net and check out the Resources Center and the Get Equipped Center. On our Resources Center, you will find hundreds of links, hundreds of videos, articles, blogs, even America's original founding documents can be found on Truth and Liberty's Resources Center. It's searchable by topic, preset topic, or you can put in a custom search to find exactly what you need and what you're interested in. In the Get Equipped section, we link you to tools created by our strategic partners, including Pray, Vote, and Engage tools. We culture impact teams, civic action teams, biblical citizenship in modern America, biblical worldview training, and more. So go today to truthandliberty.net and find what you need to get equipped to stand for truth in the public square.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Bishop E.W. Jackson, here on Truth and Liberty, standing in for Richard Harris. Great to have you with us, and I have got a great guest, folks. But just before I bring her on, let me remind you, we love you. We care about you. We want to be a blessing to you. And Truth and Liberty has a free offering for you. All you have to do is go to truthandlibertygtn.com, and we will send you a copy of Richard's book, The Calling to Manhood. The Calling to Manhood. No cost, no charge to you. Just go to that website, Truth and Liberty, all spelled out, truthandlibertygtn.com, and we'll send you The Calling to Manhood. Well, my guest is somebody that I have been following and admiring for quite some time, although they really haven't been that long at it, so it hasn't been decades, but they certainly made an impact for the short time that they have been doing what they do. Tina Descovich is one of the co-founders of Moms for Liberty. It's the grassroots organization all of you have probably heard of. They have 300 chapters in 48 states with over 130,000 members. She's the organization's executive director, and maybe we'll have an opportunity to learn more about her in this interview. Tina, welcome to Truth and Liberty. Thanks for taking time to be with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure and honor to be here with you, and I love the name of the show, Truth and Liberty.
By the way, I want to congratulate you. You're one of the recipients of the George Washington Award for taking a stand, so we will be together on May the 16th. To give you that award. And I'll tell you something, Tina, you have earned it for what you've done for this country. Let's talk then about Moms for Liberty. How did this even start? Where did this come from?
So Tiffany and I, she's my co-founder, we were on school boards 2016 to 2020 in Florida. We didn't even know each other. We were in different counties, but we had the same experiences. Basically, we like to say we saw behind the education curtain. We really saw the things going on in public education from behind the scenes. And one of the things we witnessed was parental rights being stomped on, basically, especially as 2020 happened. And so I think all of America in 2020 saw what was happening. We like to say they saw behind the education curtain as lessons were being streamed into homes and parents were seeing what children were being taught or the lack of what they were being taught. And then parents were being shut out of school board meetings as they were trying to complain and show up at school board meetings saying, open schools, get masks off my kids, don't quarantine them if they're healthy. stop teaching them the stuff that I see coming into my home. Their mics were getting shut off. Some were getting literally drug out. Some were getting arrested. In some places, they were locking the doors. And so Tiffany and I came together late in 2020 and said, let's do something to help parents advocate better. They are not doing a very good job. A lot of them didn't even understand how school boards functioned or how to be effective. And so we thought, well, let's just start this nonprofit. Here in Florida, I wrote our 5-year business plan out the gate. And in 5 years, I was hoping we'd have 67 chapters and we'd be all over the state of Florida. And as you said, here we are now, 4.5 years later, and we're in 48 states, 320 chapters, actually. I got to give you updated numbers, 130,000 members. And, I could also talk about election wins and bills passed and the things that our moms have accomplished. It's remarkable.
Well, we've seen the crowds. We've seen you all out there. We've seen your people showing up at school board meetings and expressing what every parent with common sense knows, which is the parent is the ultimate teacher of his or her child. I mean, you got 5 children, correct?
Yeah, they're his, mine, and ours, but we have 5 between us, my husband and I, and we have 6 grandchildren. So we are a growing family. We understand the fundamental rights of parents and what that takes to keep your family together, to raise your family. Those rights were given to us by God, and government cannot take that away. But, as we have this conversation today, we can talk more about what's happening around the country, about how government at all levels is fighting against the family unit by inserting themselves and taking away parental rights.
Well, let's talk about the name Liberty, because that's an interesting way to phrase this. You mentioned parental rights right off the bat, but it's called Moms for Liberty. Talk to us how Liberty fits in, because you talked about closed doors and shut off mics, and where does Liberty come into this?
Well, it's interesting because, a lot went into picking the name for our organization. We didn't just pull it out of a hat. We thought very, very deeply about what we wanted to name this organization. And what we saw, who we saw speaking up in 2020 was moms. Yes, there were some dads, but it was mostly mothers coming to school board meetings that were very upset about what they were seeing happening in our country and in their homes and in our schools and with their children. And also, there's no one that's going to fight for a child quite like a mom. There's just a special bond there. And so, and we, the 3 of us that were starting it at the time, we all were moms. And so it made complete sense to use the word moms. And then the word for was chosen because we weren't of liberty. We weren't, all of the words that could have gone in there. We were for liberty. And then the word liberty, it's interesting because of course we thought of freedom, we thought of liberty, we thought of parents for liberty, we thought of all these combinations, but it's not that we wanted freedom, and freedom and liberty were very different things as we had that discussion. Liberty is to do what you ought to do. It's following God's will for your family. And so that's very different than the freedom to do whatever the heck you want and hurt whoever you want. We wanted Moms for Liberty. And what it really comes down to, our mission statement is to save America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government, which is a whole lot of words that actually what it means is it's the final line in the sand for us. We took a survey of the country. It looks like we're losing the country on all fronts. But once you lose your family, you've lost your communities.
Yes.
And once you've lost your community, you've lost your state. And once you've lost your state, you've lost your country. And so it's actually a very direct line. And this was the final line in the sand. And we saw government at all levels coming for those parental rights, dividing your family. And so that's it. We're done. We're going to stand there.
Tina, how do we get to a point, and what do we do to correct the thinking of people that they really believe that somehow they are advancing liberty by censoring parents, closing off their mics, shutting them out of their school board meetings, that for school systems where their children are in attendance, and yet somehow they think they're striking some sort of blow for justice, when nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, how do we get to such a skewed vision of what America really represents?
Well, I think the great deceiver is behind it all. And, things, they appear compassionate when really it's a distortion of truth. And we see that more today, I think, than any other time. Truth is just, we're deceived a lot. We're being deceived all the time. And truth is not very clear. And if you're not a discerning person, if you don't take the time to look all around and really understand, you can be deceived so easily. And a lot of these things, like gender ideology with children, they're wrapped in empathy, and they're wrapped in you need to care and love. And if you don't accept what's going on, then they label you hateful. And so it's very deceptive and it's very twisted. And if you're not discerning, it's very easy to fall for it.
Yeah, the love someone has as a government bureaucrat for your child is much deeper than your love as a parent, and much more accurate, and should carry the day, which is just, I mean, it's about as convoluted as it gets.
When you say it like that, it seems so clear. But when they say it, when teachers say that they care about their students, I
Yeah.
believe them. I believe that they care about their students. But NGOs were at their training 2 months ago telling them that if they didn't affirm the gender of a student as they believed, the student's gender identity, that they would commit suicide. And so they've been deceived. And so, but then they carry that passionately, saying, I have to affirm, or my student's going to commit suicide. And so they've been sucked in too. And now they're part of the lie, and it just gets more twisted, and it just snowballs.
I think of that scripture in Proverbs 14:12 that says, there is a way that seems right to man, but the ways thereof are the ways of death. And that's what we're dealing with. You're right. It's deception, thinking you're doing something good, when in actuality, you're doing something evil. How much pressure were you put under when we saw the Biden administration begin to have the FBI investigating parents and investigating groups, and probably my Moms for Liberty was on the list of, they're domestic terrorists because they're showing up at school board meetings. How did you all respond to that?
We were under intense pressure from shortly after we launched, from social media, Facebook throwing out our chapters for giving us citations for saying school board meeting tonight at 7, everyone show up. And they would say that was hate speech. And so we were getting blocked and closed down all the time on social media. At one point, Twitter, X now, but when it was Twitter, they suspended our account for saying that California was allowing children to go there to be transitioned, which they were, and that a male is a male and a female is a female. And they told us if we didn't take it down and say it was a lie, that they would never give us our account back. PayPal froze. We had about $2,500 in the bank. We were a brand new organization. Somebody did a crowd fundraiser online for us, and we raised $120,000 in April of that year. And that was the most money we'd ever had. We were so excited to be able to start to really launch Moms for Liberty, and PayPal froze all of it and wouldn't give it to us until Governor DeSantis in Florida held a press conference and,
Wow.
and shook his hand. And so it was just one hit after another of trying to be silenced. And then, we just kept growing and getting more energy and more influential and winning all those school board races. And then 5 of the Republican presidential candidates came to our national summit in
I remember
Philadelphia.
that.
And when we started announcing them, that's when things started going south quick. Well, before that, though, Merrick Garland put out the threat tag about parents, directed the hotline to call for parents that were showing up in meetings. The FBI started calling some of our moms, asking them if they'd been at a school board meeting. Do they have weapons in their home? Do they have any psychological, historical problems with their mental health? And it was just getting so crazy. But we just kept, nothing slowed us down. We just kept growing and just saying, we're not listening to you. We care about our kids. We're going to keep going. And it was making them crazier. So then they started going to the nonprofit agents and NGOs. And so they went to Southern Poverty Law Center. So leading up to that summit in Philadelphia with the presidential candidates, Southern Poverty Law Center declared us an anti-government extremist group and added us to their hate map. And that same week, we started getting cyber attacked by Anonymous, which is one of the biggest global cyber attack organizations in the world. And somebody, our cyber team that we had to, of course, hire because we had no one at the time, our website was down for days, and everything was just coming at us and coming at us. So somebody put tens of millions of dollars in to shut you guys down.
Wow.
I'm like, this is insane what's happening to us. So, if I look a little happy and joyful about it, it's just It was an awful time. I should look a whole lot more sad. It was very challenging. I feel like we had landmines everywhere, but we prevailed. I mean, we won school board races, we got legislation passed. And then if you want to talk about how we turned out the vote for the presidential election, I'm happy to touch on that in a little bit too. And so nothing's going to stop a mom.
Well, look, let's get to that. But what you just described is the antithesis of liberty. That is not liberty. That's tyranny. That's trying to punish people for holding a point of view. And again, that's why I love the name, because America is a nation of liberty. We believe in individual liberty. You and I, we're not interested in censoring the people who disagree with us, but just don't censor us. Give us an opportunity to have a free and open and fair debate. We're confident that our ideas will prevail when the American people can hear them. But that's not the way they want to play. Apparently they want to put you in jail because you don't happen to share their views. And I've had some experience with the Southern Poverty Law Center because they did the same thing to American Family Radio and American Family Association. Because we're Christians, they declared us a hate group. Apparently, standing for certain principles now has you declared a hate group and has the FBI investigating. I mean, that's a very sad situation to have had our country come to. But as you said, you didn't stop. You just kept pushing. So you actually ended up having an impact on the presidential election. Talk about that.
Yeah, we had a donor reach out and said, I think that you guys are pretty influential, and I think you can get moms that don't ordinarily vote to vote. And we said, okay, we'll give it a shot. And we put together some plans. We picked 4 swing states, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Wisconsin, where we already had a bunch of chapters and ambassadors and chapter leaders. And we just put some plans in place we identified about 200,000 moms in each of those states that don't ordinarily vote, that kind of look like Moms for Liberty members. And we just started messaging them, local messages. Do you know this is going on in your school? Do you realize your school district is failing? Do you realize the Biden administration just rewrote Title IX and now boys are allowed in your children's bathroom, in your children's locker rooms and bathrooms and are playing? Do you realize there's 4 boys playing on your sports team, your girls' sports team down the street? We just took all the local issues and just kept informing them, texting them, sending them postcards handwritten from our moms to their moms. All types of things that people ordinarily do, but we made it very personal and very local. Long story short, we turned out an average of 93% of those 200,000 in each state.
Wow.
So we turned out about 800,000 women mom voters that wouldn't have voted, probably not in the election. And so it was highly successful.
Well, I'll tell you what, then President Trump owes you a debt of gratitude for having helped mobilize the vote and get people out. So God bless you all for doing it.
Hey, will you tell him that when you see him next, please? Just make sure he does that.
Well, listen, if I have that opportunity, I assure you I will.
Okay, thank you.
Well, look, Tina, let's talk about the human impact. You know, we conceded earlier, some of these people are just misguided. They really think they're doing something good. They think they're doing something compassionate. But talk about the human impact, because when I heard Riley Gaines talk about this for the first time in person, it really touched me, because girls are actually being traumatized by this stuff of sending a fully intact male into the girl's shower because he says he's a woman. And if the girl raises any objection, she gets assaulted twice. First by him invading her privacy, and then by the school system that says, you're a bad person because you dare object to this. You should be happy. Talk a little bit about, because I'm sure you run into parents who just said, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Yeah, there's a case right now. I mean, President Trump has been signing executive orders, but schools are defying, districts are defying. In Illinois right now, as we are having this conversation, one of our moms and chapter chairs is assisting another mom in Illinois whose daughter was in the locker room, and a boy who identifies as a girl has been in there to change, and the daughter's been leaving. And the daughter they're trying to punish her for not dressing out, for not changing in the locker room.
Wow.
And the mom is just going to battle about it. It's absolute, it's insanity that's happening. And anyone that hears the story agrees, but the school district is doubling down. And the school is not only doubling down, but the district, the head of the district keeps driving like 30 miles back to the school every day to make sure that the child is dressing, and telling her that she has to dress in there. I mean, she's not doing it, but she's there to try to make sure it happens. And so it's really absurd. And then we have stories, like here, and even in Florida, this was a couple of years ago, January Littlejohn, we've published the story far and wide, and she works with Do No Harm now and tells her story about her daughter, her middle school daughter, who they, behind closed doors, she signed papers, and this is happening all over the country, that says, I want to be known by a new name, by a new pronoun. I want to change. I want to use the boys' restroom. I want to sleep in overnight field trips with the boys. And she signed it. They had her, I think she was 13 at the time, sign a legal document with no parent around at all, with the adult staff only in the room, agreeing to these things. And it's unacceptable. It's years later now. I think it's about 5 years later, and her daughter's doing wonderful. I just saw her on social media, I think dressed in a gown, ready for prom, looking beautiful. She's worked past it because her mother intervened. And her mother's actually a mental health counselor who has helped LGBTQ children in the past. And so for them to hide it from her mother was absolutely unacceptable. And just one more story right across the state, over on the east coast of Florida during the same time, a mother and father got called and rushed down to the school because their daughter tried to commit suicide in the bathroom at school. They had no idea. They showed up. They were horrified at the scene of what was happening. But long story short, they got the records from the school. They got their attorney to get the records, and they opened them up, and they were socially transitioning her daughter also. And in the records, it said that they didn't tell the parents because they were Catholic, and that they didn't think the parents would understand and accept the transitioning of the child. And so, it's happening everywhere. It's still happening even with President Trump in office, and there's a lot of work to be done.
Tina, I love liberty. I really do. And I love our country because we're a nation of freedom. And I really believe that adults have the right, as long as they're not violating the law or hurting other people, they can live however they want to live. I don't have to agree with them, but they can live however they want to live. But this notion of using children this way and doing things to children that can have a lifetime impact, not to mention traumatizing them as kids, but then maybe have a lifetime impact on their ability to have children, their ability to breastfeed their children, to their ability to procreate. To me, it borders on the criminal. And then to punish the child for suggesting, I'm not comfortable with this, it's unconscionable. For parents out there listening right now or watching who say, you know what, my daughter's going through some stuff right now that I haven't been sure what to do about it. How do they get in touch with you and turn to you maybe for some help or some guidance on how to deal with it?
Oh, they can go to our website, momsforliberty.org. There's a big map, and you can, if your county is gold, you can click on it and connect directly with your local chapter. They are the best help and support. It's your local community, and they can help you. Also, they could also help you get in touch with me if needs be. And if it's navy blue, you can click on there to start a chapter, because that means you don't have a chapter. We also have a contact us form at the bottom of our website. Most of those go straight to me, and I will see them. So you can reach out directly to me that way.
Now, what about those moms out there who have heard about you and what you're doing, and then say maybe they've seen some other things in the news, or moms running for school board? Maybe somebody's thinking, you know what? I'm tired of being on the outside looking in at these people making these decisions and disregarding me. I'm going to run for school board, but maybe they don't know how to get started. They don't know what to do. What would you suggest to them, and how do they proceed?
Oh, they need to reach out to us for sure. You can go to our website again, momsforliberty.org, and you can click on candidates in the drop-down box. We have created the only one that I know of in the whole country, campaign kit for school board candidates. Running for school board is different than any other office. When I ran for school board, I Googled how to run for school board. There was nothing out there. Most of the races are nonpartisan. It's a very different race. They're hyper-local. We have everything you could ever need or want in those campaign kits. So, and then we do these series of winning workshops around the country. So we can also plug you into one of those. It's an all-day training and you'll be ready to hit the ground running.
Have you seen school boards that were heading in this direction get flipped or at the very least get stopped?
Yes,
Talk about that.
Oh my gosh. This is my heart and my passion. So we have won over 500 school board races in the last 3 years, which is remarkable. And the school boards we have flipped in major cities. So Charleston is one of my favorite, or Berkeley County, also in South Carolina, completely flipped and took a majority of like almost the entire board in a couple of those counties. We flipped boards all over the country, and in some of those places they would fire the superintendent the very first night, and that was making headlines too. It's been quite a ride.
How has President Trump's election helped? Does it really not change much in terms of what you have to do? Has it helped you? How does that work with what the work is, with what Moms for Liberty is doing?
Yeah, so the downside of President Trump getting elected is a lot of people are like, oh, President Trump's president now. Everything's going to be fine. And that's not the case at all. He is doing his part by dismantling the Department of Education. But you know what that does? That returns the power to the states and local government, which means we have to be better citizens. We have to be even more engaged in what's going on in our school boards and our local districts. And we have to run for office and we have to check those agendas, because bigger decisions are going to be made more local, which is how it should be. And I'm excited about it. But President Trump cannot monitor all 13,000 school districts. So we have to do our part.
And we can see the governor of Maine has openly stated her defiance of his executive orders and changes in regulations. She's simply not going to adhere to them. And so ultimately, this also comes down to a local level, electing people who share your values, who are going to implement policies that you are in agreement with. So you're right. President Trump can't do anything about the governor of Maine or the school boards in Maine or the people who are making these bad decisions. But Moms for Liberty maybe can have an impact. If I don't know how well you're doing in Maine, but I'm sure you could probably use some more support there.
Yeah, I think we have one chapter there, but it's a pretty darn strong chapter, thank goodness. We have some growth to do in Maine for sure. The two states we're missing is Utah and Vermont. So if anybody's watching from Utah or Vermont, we really, really, really would like you to start a chapter.
Well, you brought up Vermont. Vermont's right now, we've got a school that is really being punished because this one team, this Vermont, I think it's the Mid Vermont Christian School, wouldn't play with a guy on the claiming to be a woman, of course, girl on the opposing team. Not only did they kick them out of that season, they kicked them out of the entire system. That the boys and the girls. So none of the teams from the school can now play in any of the state leagues at all. And they apparently kicked them out of the Principals Association of Vermont as well. I mean, they are really clamping down on them. So you're right. I mean, that's a place where you could really use some support. I don't know what they've been drinking in Vermont, but apparently they seem to have the state locked down in terms of the attitudes that people have toward this kind of thing, or at least that seems to be the way it is based upon what the governor and others are doing.
It's terrible. Who loses the most there is the students. It's unfortunate.
What we've got, Tina, is not just a political battle at the federal level, but a cultural and spiritual battle at every level. And President Trump can't solve all that. So it's going to take you and me and everybody else watching right now getting fully engaged and involved to make sure that the values that we hold dear are represented, that believers in individual liberty are heard, because we've got a lot of status people who simply want to be able to dictate to parents and to everybody else what they should think and how they should think and what they should do with their children and what they can't do with their children. I mean, that's not what the Constitution has provided for us, a constitutional republic, right? So the Moms for Liberty, the future, because Donald Trump's going to be in office another 3 years. Some people may think more longer than that if he runs again, but I think he's done with the next term. I think that's pretty much it. He'll be 81, I think, when he's finished this term. So what's the future of Moms for Liberty look like beyond today?
My goodness, we have big plans, of course, from now through the next few years. I just want to back up for a second, though, because you're talking about the people in America and what they need to do now. And the first thing I feel like they need to do now is to go back to the founding documents. It doesn't take that
Mm.
long to read through the Declaration and the Constitution. It sounds a little intimidating, but it's not really that hard. And we have to be grounded and rooted in the principles of this country. And so we have to understand what those founding principles are. And so start there, get involved civically. Everybody needs to be involved at some level, do something. Of course, I want you with Moms for Liberty, but there's 1,000 other organizations you can get involved with. And so we have 2 focus states this year. We're going to do kind of what we did in those 4 states last year. Pennsylvania and Ohio is where we're focused this year. So look for us supporting candidates there. They have all their school board races this year in Ohio and Pennsylvania. It's one of the reasons we picked those 2 states. We should be holding events and town halls and trainings throughout the year. So we hope to see people there. We have a town hall coming up in Colorado. You're the first to hear about it. There's a terrible bill in Colorado that has passed the House and on the way to the Senate. And so we're going to go out there and make a little noise about that and have some discussions with parents and community members about that. We have plans for America 250 we're putting in. Next year is America's 250th birthday. And so we've got a lot of plans with that. Yeah, we're building up some events and things in there, so stay tuned for that. But the biggest thing is our national summit, October 16th through the 18th. It's in Orlando, Florida this year. We always have the best speakers. We've had President Trump the last 2 years. We've had everybody that matters, and so we're really excited about what it's going to be this year. And you can go to our website now and get your tickets.
All right. Well, listen, you got to get me in there.
Yes, we do have to get you in there. We haven't worked on our agenda yet, but we're expanding it this year. It's going to be the biggest one ever.
Well, listen, of course, I'm kidding you, Tina. I'd be happy to do it, but you all are doing a tremendous job, and you don't need me to be successful. Obviously, you're doing a great job.
Of course we do. Of course we do. There's a place for everybody.
But look, we haven't addressed the issue of education. We've talked a little bit about. I talked a lot about the various things that the school department is trying to push on parents and push on children. But Tina, we're doing this, and our kids are not learning to read. They're not learning to write. They're not learning math. They're not learning science. I mean, what about getting back to the basics of actually educating American children so that they can compete in the marketplace and we can compete around the globe?
Yeah, I mean, people ask us, why are we fighting all of this nonsense in schools? Well, one, because we're in a cultural revolution, and if parents don't stand up, we're going to be in really bad shape. But 2, we've got to get these things out of the school systems so that they have time to teach reading and math and writing, and they can focus on that. I mean, right now they are doing circles, SEL circles, where they come in and they spend, 30 minutes every morning checking on their emotions and having discussions about these things. And where, 30 minutes of reading a day, what could that do? So for those that are watching that don't follow the national report card scores, this year was the worst one ever. We have declining scores. We have the lowest reading scores in America since the 1980s. Only 1/3, so 33%. 30-ish% students in America in 4th grade can read proficiently.
I know.
And then if you want to look at Black and Hispanic students, the numbers just go down and down and down. It is dismal. Math, we have the lowest scores in the history of the United States right now. And, you've seen all the shows with people on the corners of the streets asking how many branches of government there are and different questions. You know that civics is mortifying in America right now. And so
it really is. It's heartbreaking.
We really have to fix education. It's a national security issue. It's the future of America's issue. And so that's ultimately why we are in this fight.
I have one more question for you, Tina. Then I want to give you an opportunity to tell people how to plug in. Colorado, of course, is where Andrew Womack Ministries and Truth and Liberty are based. And obviously they have a profound interest in what happens in Colorado because Andrew Womack Ministries has had his share of difficulties with the state and with the local government just for being a Christian ministry. Please be sure to let them know whatever you're doing, because I know that they'll want to support what Moms for Liberty is doing, because we're on the same page And I know that Richard Harris, who is the executive director of Truth and Liberty, will want to support you. Now, he's done what he could to try to help Colorado. In fact, what they really want to do, I'm sure you know this, is take Colorado back for the historic values that it used to represent. And the left seems to have taken over. So I don't know where your town hall is going to be, but please be sure to plug them in to it, and I'll do what I can to help facilitate that.
Okay, thank you.
Now, how do people, again, plug in? Tell people if they want to run for school board, they have a problem with their school board, they're having an issue with their child. How do they plug in, get involved with Moms for Liberty, and seek your help?
All of those things, momsforliberty.org, our website. You can start a chapter, find a chapter. You can learn how to run for school board. You can contact your local chapter. You can contact me. All of that can be done through momsforliberty.org. Also, you can follow us on social. We're moms4liberty on everything: Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube. We have a lot of content we push out and share. I think people will find a lot of comfort if they have children and they're struggling with all of these different issues in schools. They'll find a lot of comfort in some of the things that we're sharing and posting, and they'll find their people. We like to say other folks that are also going through it with their kids.
I'm going to make sure that I'm following you on all of those venues, Tina, because I don't know that I am. So I'm going to make sure that I am, because you guys are really worth following. Please keep up the good work, and thank you for taking time to join us. I look forward to seeing you on May the 16th. We're going to have a wonderful time. Be a lot of people out there who want to support you and cheer you on. So God bless you. I'm going to keep you in our prayers, Tina. Thanks for all that you have done and are doing and are going to do in the future.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was a great conversation, and I can't wait to get to Virginia to see you all too.
All right. Thanks so much. God bless.
God bless you.
Well, folks, I'll tell you, Moms for Liberty is cooking. They are getting it done, and we are so happy about that. That's why, we come on and we talk about these issues, but it's also important to talk about what's being done to address them. I talked in an earlier program about the breakdown of the family, but what's being done to address that? I've talked to Moms for Liberty and Tina about all the stuff that's going on in our schools across the country. But what's being done to address it? Moms for Liberty is addressing it. I mean, they're dealing with it. And frankly, when we have victories, very often we're elated, we're grateful, we're thankful. Oh, wow, look, we won one. And don't realize often that win is because somebody like Tina Descovich and Moms for Liberty are on the front lines, battling away, having influence in the background, doing the stuff that maybe you can't do and I can't do because we're too far away, but they've got people on the ground there. So I hope all of you will take advantage of that and check out Moms for Liberty and just support them, contribute to them, refer other people to them, because folks, what they've accomplished in 5 years is absolutely astounding. And they couldn't have done it without the grace of God and without having touched on something that is deeply important to the American people. And folks have responded from all over the country. Their goal is 3,000 chapters around the country. And you know what? Given what they've been able to accomplish in such a short time, I don't have any doubt that they are going to get it done. So praise God. And by the way, let me mention too, if you want to come to the Stand Awards dinner, it's May 16th. It's going to be at Cornerstone Chapel. Pastor Gary Hamrick is the pastor there, and he's been kind enough to host us. 7 p.m. For the dinner, and she is going to be one of our honorees receiving the George Washington Award for taking a stand. And if you have any question of whether she's taking a stand, I think this interview has made that quite obvious that she has taken a stand, folks. And you know what? They are not backing down either. They are on the front lines of this thing. And I'll tell you, but it just does my heart glad to know it. So look, that's standamerica.us is the website to go to find out more about it. That's where you can make a donation, you can buy a ticket, you can sponsor a table, you can be a sponsor of the event. and come on out and support Tina Descovich and Moms for Liberty as they receive an award for having taken such a bold and courageous and decisive stand for Jesus. Now, I want to remind you again, we've got a free offering for you folks. This has been provided by Richard Harris and Truth and Liberty, The Calling to Manhood. We will send you that book for free. All you've got to do is go to truthandlibertygtn.com. That's truthandlibertygtn.com. Now, I want to say then, as I close, I've been saying this, and she reiterated it so beautifully. Donald Trump cannot save the country alone because there's more to our country than the federal government. And he can impact the federal government tremendously, and he's doing that. And he can also impact some cultural things by the stands, the rules, the regulations that the federal government either promulgates or vitiates, removes, takes away. But we've got to have people on the ground at the state and local level who are taking a stand on these issues, because this is, again, not simply a political problem we're dealing with. This is a spiritual and cultural problem that we're dealing with. And if we don't have Americans right there at the school board meeting, at the city council level, at the state level, saying this is the truth, this is what the Constitution says, this is what the Declaration says, this is who we are as Americans, this is what we stand for, and making clear who we are and what we represent. We could win some significant battles at the federal level and still lose terribly at the state and local level. Don't let that happen, folks. Don't let that happen. Get involved. Run for school board. Go to school board meetings. Take a stand, speak up. It's not just defending our children against the onslaught of this kind of sexual nonsense that many of these people are promoting, but it's also standing up for their right to a decent education. So they do learn to read, they do learn to write, they do learn math, they do learn science, they do learn history and civics as it ought to be taught, as opposed to, as Tina just pointed out, having 30 minutes to talk about your emotions and your feelings. Well, there's a place for that, but you know what? I think that ought to happen primarily in the family, and that the schools ought to be for the purpose of educating our children, not for placating their emotions and assuaging their emotions and all of that. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't care about how children feel, but my goodness, their job, their mission is to educate them, not indoctrinate them. And unfortunately, that is what has been going on primarily. And we've got to put a stop to it. So it's up to us, not just President Trump, but up to each of us, particularly as believers in the Lord Jesus Christ, to be on the front line, standing up for what we know to be true. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you all so much for supporting Truth and Liberty and supporting Andrew Womack Ministries. We couldn't do without you, because God raised this ministry up for you. And thank you for praying for us and supporting us financially and doing all the things you do to make it possible. I'm your host. I've been standing in for Richard Harris here on Truth and Liberty. Stand up, step up, speak up, refuse to back up, because we win in the name of Jesus.